I love you, you're my favorite. We're best friends. Now listen to that. If you hear those words coming from a brightly colored toy in the middle of a sunny playroom, it's adorable, right? It's super sweet. But take those exact same words, strip away all that cheerful context, and drop them into a pitch-black, isolated basement with this crackling, distorted voice box. Suddenly, that incredibly innocent phrase becomes absolute nightmare fuel. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to look really closely at exactly how fear is engineered. So let's dive right into it. Today, we're exploring the anatomy of a haunting, specifically deconstructing the 2023 indie horror film Spirit of Fear. And look, we aren't just going to sit here and recap the plot. Instead, we're going for a deep thematic deconstruction of the actual cinematic tools used to invoke dread. We're going to break down exactly how the filmmakers manipulate our senses and the protagonist's mind using some highly calculated techniques. It is fascinating stuff. Section 1. Building fear through sound. You know how in so many horror scenarios, it's not what you see that terrifies you, it's what you hear? Well, in this film, the entire atmosphere is established through its auditory soundscape, way before our protagonist, Chris, ever even knows what's actually attacking him. Just think about these recurring ambient noises for a second. A projector whirring, water constantly dripping, rapid dial tones, tinkling chimes, electricity crackling, static hissing, and heavy, unnatural footsteps. In your day-to-day life, most of these are completely mundane, but when they're layered together relentlessly in the pitch black, they create this bizarre and absolutely overwhelming sense of isolation. It literally builds a claustrophobic auditory cage around Chris that he just cannot escape. And this right here brilliantly illustrates the real power of sound design. Using isolation through these auditory motifs forces us, the viewers, right into the dark alongside the protagonist. I mean, think about it. There is very little expositional dialogue early on to explain what's going on. We don't get spoon-fed the answers. Instead, we are plunged directly into Chris's sensory confusion. We hear the heavy, unnatural breathing. We hear that endless dripping water. We're completely forced to share his total disorientation. Moving on to Section 2, Corrupted Childhood Innocence. So, that intense auditory assault transitions us perfectly into the next psychological tool the film pulls out, twisting something pure into something completely horrific. The thematic juxtaposition here is just wild. On one hand, we have the cheerful, upbeat lyrics from classic pop songs like Rockin' Robin and You Are My Sunshine. You're literally hearing Rockin' Robin tweet, tweet, tweet echoing around. But then, on the other hand, you have the horrific auditory reality of Chris's actual situation. He's grunting in pain, electricity is crackling dangerously close, some unseen creature is growling, glass is shattering everywhere. The filmmakers are purposefully blasting these deeply nostalgic, happy songs over scenes of intense physical and mental torture. It creates this massive cognitive dissonance that deeply unhinges both the character and, honestly, us as the audience. And they push that corruption of innocence even further. Out of the darkness, the voice of a little girl calls out, "Daddy, where is Daddy? Is he downstairs? Is he awake?" A child's totally innocent questions are literally being weaponized. When you pair this with that repeating, creepy doll dialogue we talked about earlier, "I love you, we're best friends," it just compounds Chris's emotional distress. He isn't just fighting a monster in the dark anymore. His own protective, fatherly instincts are being used to psychologically break him down. Section 3, the turning point. Because a protagonist can only be a victim for so long before they finally fight back, right? Tracing Chris's psychological evolution here is super interesting. Point 1 is pure, raw confusion. He's sobbing, just asking the void, "What's happening to me?" Point 2 moves into intense desperation. He actually manages to get a phone working and begs, "Help me, help me." But then look at point 3, confrontation. "You don't belong here. Leave now." His entire posture changes. He has fully transitioned from a helpless, panicked victim into a deeply empowered state. So the big question is, what happens between point 2 and point 3? What exactly triggers this massive shift from completely helpless terror to empowered confrontation? How does a man broken by fear suddenly find his footing like that? Well, the answer is the absolute thematic core of the entire film. Let's get into Section 4, Overcoming the Fear. This is it. This is the spiritual climax of the narrative, where we see how religious motifs and scripture are quite literally weaponized by the protagonist to defeat the psychological entity haunting him. This brings us to the massive aha moment of the explainer. The title of the film, Spirit of Fear, isn't just some spooky, atmospheric name they threw on a poster. It's a direct reference to 2 Timothy 1:7. Chris finds and actively clings to this verse. For God had not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and of a sound mind. This is exactly how he reclaims his sanity. He repeats the words spirit of fear as a full-blown revelation. The fear isn't just a feeling anymore. It's a force he can actively identify and reject using this very specific scripture. And actually, he doesn't stop there. He reinforces his newfound strength with a secondary biblical quote. 1 John 4:4. He who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. In the context of the film's haunting, these verses act as the ultimate mental shield. They give him the exact framework he desperately needs to banish the intense psychological torment that has been just crushing him since the opening scene. Empowered by this sound mind, Chris takes very specific tactical steps in the climax to assert his dominance over the fear. First, he has to reclaim the physical space. He flat out declares, "This is my house." Second, he has to reclaim the family, anchoring his core purpose by stating, "This is my family." And finally, with his authority firmly established, he banishes the entity. Leave now. It's a direct, definitive pushback against the haunting. No more running. And the immediate resolution to that pushback? It is beautiful in its simplicity. After all the aggressive, completely overwhelming auditory terror we've been analyzing, the screaming, the growling, the static, the corrupted pop songs, it all suddenly just stops. And what's it replaced by? A warm, supportive human voice saying, "Chris, welcome back," followed by calm, light orchestral music. By conquering the fear internally, the external nightmare literally ceases to exist. So after deconstructing the sounds, the corrupted innocence, and this ultimate psychological triumph, I want to leave you with one final thought. Is the true spirit of fear an external monster lurking in the dark? Or is it the internal demons we allow to haunt our own minds? The way this film constructs dread heavily suggests that fear only has the power we surrender to it. I hope you found this explainer as fascinating to walk through as I did. Keep questioning what you see, keep analyzing what you hear, and I'll catch you on the next one.